Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I'm down here in sunny Aylesbury at Swift Performance to have a quick checkup of my M2. There'll be more on that coming very soon, but also to check out Russ's latest runaround. This E46 M3 cab cost £5,000, and I thought, well, the channel is full of very expensive cars, just like the long-term M2 that I'm running around in at the moment. The retail price on that car with options is £76,000. So I thought, you know what, let's start featuring more affordable stuff, because I personally find that really interesting. And when Russ told me how much he paid for this, I couldn't believe it. In fact, I was on Auto Trader this morning just to see what the cheapest M3s in general are out there in the UK. And the cheapest M3s are all E46 M3 cabs, but the ones on Auto Trader start at about £9,500. There is a reason that this is £5,000, and we'll get onto that a little bit later once I've taken it out for a drive and we come back and speak to Russ, because we're going to put it up on the ramp and have a look at what's wrong with this and talk about what you should be looking out for on your E46, whether it's a coupe or a cabriolet if you're looking at buying these, because obviously this particular one, well, it's 2001, making it 22 years old. So even the very last E46s are approaching 20 years old now. So there's definitely things to look out for cars here in the UK that go through our harsh winters and fairly warm summers. Before we have a look under the bonnet, let's just talk about the obvious, and that is the colour. This is individual Phoenix yellow, except it's quite a few different shades of Phoenix yellow because it's so old and because it's had some paintwork done over those years. So the bumpers are slightly different to the bonnet, which is slightly different to the boot, etc. And to throw things into the mix and make it even worse, we have kiwi leather in the inside. So kiwi leather with Phoenix yellow externally. I mean, even when this was new, that was a bad idea, but saying that, there's still something very, very cool about it. And I love the fact that it is very, very tatty. In fact, I've made no attempt whatsoever to clean it. There's spider webs on here, there's a bit of bird dropping down the side. That's just what it is. It's Russ's daily tool. He doesn't care about it. He can park it up in a supermarket car park, leave the roof off, doesn't matter. He's not worried in that sense, and that's what makes this car so special. It also happens to be a 6-speed manual, which is very cool and something that I need to be wary of, because, well, we all know that my manual shifting has caused me a little bit of trouble in 2023, but I think I should be okay because I'm not going to be driving this particularly hard. In here we have the S54 unit, which is a 3.2 litre inline 6, naturally aspirated. There isn't a turbo in sight. Back in 2001, this produced 343 horsepower at a heady 7,900 RPM, and it produced 365 newton meters of torque at just below 5,000 RPM. So both maximum torque and maximum power are right up in the rev range. And just to put things into perspective, well, a modern day M3 like my Touring produces 650 newton meters of torque, so almost twice the amount of torque. In fact, even the B48, which is a 2 litre 4-cylinder unit that's in the current M135i, well, that produces 450 newton meters of torque. So you can see, although we did love NA engines back in the day, they really did struggle to give us that torque, which in turn gives modern cars a really good daily ability, if that is a word. I'm not sure it is. But unlike the very latest M3 cab, which is now called an M4 cab, that weighs pretty much exactly 2 tons, this one weighed just over 1,600 kilos, which means that its performance figures with the lower power and the lower torque are still pretty impressive to this day. BMW claimed that it would do the 0 to 60 sprint in 5.2 seconds, and it would go on to a limited top speed of 155 miles an hour. Although this particular example of Russ's has done 145,000 miles. So it probably has lost some power and some torque during those years, but it'd be interesting to see what it's like when we get it out on the road. And talking of that, well, the sun is out and I don't have long down here, so let's jump in and go and find a half decent road around here and see what this old weapon is like. Okay, here we are in Russ's old and battered E46 M3 Cabriolet, and I've been doing flybys for the camera for the past 20 minutes and everything's been going reasonably well, better than I thought. But unfortunately, on the last turnaround of my final flyby, I was turning around on a gravel sort of farm driveway and a stone or something has got caught on or between the backing plate, I think it's of the rear left disc. So unfortunately, if you do pick that sound up, which I'm sure you will because it's sometimes more annoying than others, there's not much I can do about it. And also we can't blame the car for that because, well, that incident has happened to me more recently on brand new BMWs and other manufacturers. If a stone gets up there, I'm sure if you've been there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It is an absolute pain. You can take it out, but you need to take the wheel off or it should eventually fall out. So just wanted to caveat that because that sound is nothing to do with this old dog. Firstly, let's just talk about the E46 cabin and interior. I actually had a 2004 330 Ci coupe and I absolutely love that car. It's a 6-speed manual and I love the interior. I love the dashboard design and layout on this car. It's all very driver centric, which was a thing on every BMW 20 odd years ago, and everything's just so simple and well put together. I love the sort of carbon effect here on the trim. Just all looks really good, and considering this is a Y reg, so 2001, and my 330 Ci was an 04 plate, so this is 3 years older than that. Well, this one only has a CD player or a CD port, whereas my car well, my car did have a CD changer, I think, in the glove box off memory, but it also had a tape deck. So even though it was 3 years newer, it had a tape deck, so that was properly retro. The dials are absolutely glorious. Once again, not only was this sort of era peak interior for BMW as far as I'm concerned, that also extended to peak dials. I just love the grey back dials. I used to see them in magazines back in the day and just dream of owning an M car of my own one day. And unfortunately, I think a lot of that magic has been lost in modern cars and modern M cars. They're just so lovely to look at, like a good watch. And I'm not a watch person, but I can appreciate a good watch. And to me, these are like really nice watch dials. And what's cool is as you get around to the red line on this, which is, I believe, just over 8,000 RPM, you get the lights lighting up on the rev counter that almost give you an idea of when you're getting up near the red line and when you should change. Because this has done 145,000 miles, and although Russ is going to break it down, I don't want to rev it out that hard. I've had it up to 6.5 today and it sounds absolutely glorious. In fact, let's just do that now. There's 4, 5, 6.5. Oh, such a sonorous engine, such a fantastic, oh, brings back so many memories of watching videos back in the day, brings back so many memories of watching E46 M3s pounding around many circuits in the modern day for me as well. There's very few cars that sound as good. They have it's that induction sound, that beautiful tinny induction sound and exhaust note, and it's just almost unmatched to this day. I think if someone who wasn't into cars got in this car, like my dad, and put his foot down, he might think that there's not enough oil in the engine, because it does sound very metallic. But once you know that's okay, and once you know that's how it should sound, it's such an addictive note. Let's just jump back to the interior again quickly, because recently I posted something on my Instagram, a reel of the new M3 CS, the G80, and I was talking about the fact that it doesn't have cup holders. I mean, it's not the be all and end all, because that car is absolutely brilliant otherwise. And a lot of people commented saying, actually, you know, the E46 didn't have cup holders, and it doesn't. And I'd forgotten that only 20 years ago, I say only because I'm an old man these days, well, yeah, there's no cup holders in here. You could get sat-nav, you could get all sorts of mod cons in this car back in the day, but there is nowhere to put your bottle. And in fact, the door cards, at least in this cab, and I'm pretty sure they're the same as the ones that are in the coupe, well, they're next to useless. I don't know what you're meant to squeeze down in there. So yeah, whether you had a coffee or a bottle, there is literally nowhere to put it when you step back to this sort of generation. This is probably a good time to talk about the size of this car. Now, although it wasn't particularly compact or small back in the day when it was new, today, well, I drove down to Swift in my G87 M2 long-termer, and one of that car's biggest issues, along with cars like the current FL5 Civic Type R, is they are so wide, 75 odd inches, right? This is nearly 5 inches narrower. So an M3 Cabriolet, which was actually a little bit wider than the coupe at the time, is 5 inches narrower than the current M2. And that makes a big difference when you're on the road, especially on a UK road like this one, because you can just navigate down your awkward local A or B road with that much extra room, and it really does feel so much narrower, especially from the driver's seat. Talking about the driver's seat, well, I'm sitting a bit higher than I want to be, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I'm in a cab, because the H-point where these seats are mounted is a little bit higher in these compared to the coupe. But you know what? It's not too bad at all. The steering is really adjustable, the pedals are fantastic. In fact, it's exactly the same pedal box that's in my F87 M2, yes, the broken one. If you're about 6 foot or below, you're going to find a very good driving position in this car. The pedals are massively offset, just like they are in the modern day G87 M2. People are complaining about that, and I know more so relating to the carbon bucket seats. You do notice it more in those, but pedals have always been offset in BMW M cars, as far as I can remember anyway. You just get used to it very, very quickly. The actual gearbox, well, it wouldn't surprise me if it's the same one that was in my M2. Feels really nice. It's nicely worn in because this car's fast approaching 150,000 miles, so it feels really good. And obviously things like heel and toe are relatively easy because it's the same pedal box and the pedals are spaced lovely. Oh, just that motor is so special. And you know, in the intro we talked about its relative lack of torque compared to modern engines of today. Well, you don't really notice it, I have to say. Oh, it just sounds so good. Now, I know Russ is going to tell me there's a lot of things wrong with this car, and that's one of the reasons I've got him to do it after I've taken it for a drive, because maybe I'll be too scared to take it out for a drive after he's told me what's wrong with it. But in my short, sunny and lovely drive, I tell you what, apart from the brakes, which really don't feel that good, They never really did when this car was new back in the day, but yeah, they could do with some TLC or just ripping out and replacing. But apart from those, it's just lovely. The engine, lovely. Gearbox works so well. It sounds great. There are no rattles really, apart from that stone, which sounds like it might have come out. It's just really nice. The steering, steering feel. Why? Because it's a hydraulic rack. Now, something this car definitely does have, and something we experienced back there when we went over those potholes and etc., is scuttle shake. And that's where you feel like you're sitting on a different part of the car than the steering column and steering wheel is connected to. I've talked about that in modern convertibles, and in fact the very latest GE83 M4 from BMW, which is 2 tons, that also suffers from scuttle shake. So if that car suffers, you know that a 25-year-old E46 is also going to suffer, and it does, but not horrendously, because I think anyone that owns one of these today, you're going to use it as more of a cruisy GT car than something like an out-and-out sports car. You know, it's not today trying to be, in my opinion, a sports car. It's more of a GT soft top that has some performance, but you're going to respect it because of its age, and you're just going to enjoy the fact that the roof's off and you've got that beautiful 6-spot to listen to. I would absolutely love to take this down to the south of France, drive along the Côte d'Azur in it, you know. It's just cool and it's timeless. And although I'm not the biggest fan of this spec, I think somehow it would fit in. And earlier on I went and put 20 quid's worth of fuel in it, which has gone in about 10 minutes. And at the petrol station, someone actually came out and said to me, "I like your car." Now, how many other cars out there are there that you could spend 5 grand on and someone's going to say, "I like your car"? I don't think there are many at all. So fair play to this car. I'm sure it has a million tales to tell. I'm sure it's done some incredible road trips and journeys along the way. Now we're in Wendover and we can only do 30 miles an hour. I'm actually going to put down all of the windows and get the full convertible experience. It's very much like being back on the GS. You know, I've got that sort of surround view. I've got very little metalwork, and actually even the doors, because it's a much older car, the door cards appear to be a lot lower than modern stuff for safety, etc. You'll notice that modern cars have got much smaller windows, much higher door sills, etc. all in the name of safety, whereas you get in something old and you feel like you've just got a lot more visibility, especially if it's convertible. But cruising through here, I mean, once upon a time, back in 2001, this would have been the sort of car that someone in Wendover that has a big fancy house would have probably owned, alongside potentially something like a 5 Series Touring or very early X5. Back then, SUVs were only just starting to appear, and I wouldn't even say come into fashion, in the good old days. But yeah, looking at the reflection of this car in all the glass, just brilliant. Absolutely love it. Really, really cool. Am I embarrassed about driving around this? Not one bit. I think this is potentially cooler than pretty much everything on sale today. Certainly has a lot more character. This dude in the pink shirt, he's looking at me, he's like, yeah, that guy is winning at life in his Phoenix yellow E46 M3 cab. Right, I think on that note, I'm going to head back to Swift, and Russ is going to put this up on the stand and talk through what is wrong with this car, and also what the common issues are with E46s in general, not just E46 cabs, E46 coupes, etc. Because yeah, we all love an E46, but obviously at the age group that they're at now, it's very hard to find a clean one. And although you can obviously take it down to Swift Performance to get it sorted out, there are probably some fundamentals to keep an eye out for. So yeah, let's go and see those guys. Here we are, back at Swift, which, by the way, is looking more and more impressive each time I come down here. Russ, you guys have been super busy. Well,
yeah,
the fitters have been super busy as
That's
well.
it.
As always, there's some absolute beauties lined up out there, including Russ's lovely E46 over there. But we're not here for that E46. We are here, as you know, to talk about this absolute Phoenix weapon. Shed, did you say?
Yeah.
Well, actually, there's a part of the shed.
Yeah.
So it's £5,000 including the hard top.
No, it wasn't including the
Oh,
hard
that
top.
wasn't including. Oh, okay. All right. That was an extra £5,000.
No, I just need to sell that for the previous guy.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Nice. Well, Russ, what I thought would be really interesting is just have a quick walk around this car.
Yep.
And talk about, yeah, what is fundamentally wrong with it, why you're going to end up breaking it, and yeah, what the sort of things are to look out for on your typical E46 that's 22 years old.
Yep. Well, I bought the car last November.
Yep.
Basically to break it. The previous guy, lovely chap, had it, I think, 15 or 16 years. And he had a bit of a episode leaving a roundabout.
Okay, as you do.
As you know, the traction control's playing up, and that was probably a factor.
Yes.
And bent wishbone, couple of tyres, so on and so forth. So I ended up putting a wishbone on it and these wheels, which I just had.
Yep.
And then one day I thought I just needed something to get home in. And then I've basically been dailying it for 9 months. Not every day, because I have other cars to use, but if I need to go into town or whatever, I just don't care where I park it. So
Yeah, because you're only 15, 20 minutes from here anyway. And but it is cool, and I mean I particularly liked and enjoyed driving it today.
it does have an appeal.
Yeah.
You know, I have enjoyed, even though it is a bit of a shed.
Yes.
It is past its best.
Yeah.
It's had loads of paint over the years, mostly bad.
Okay.
Don't forget that these cars dropped. You know, they started off having a decent value, and then they dropped down to, 5-6 grand.
Yeah.
And then obviously the maintenance on these is quite high. And then when they drop into that sort of price bracket, people don't necessarily want to spend the money.
Yeah.
Although this, some years ago, had a head gasket, clutch and flywheel, but that was quite a while ago.
Okay.
But yeah, now obviously there being, more money, people are more inclined to spend a bit more on them. So
Yes.
It's kind of how it goes with cars.
But if this was a Minter, like 30,000 miles, then yes.
It'll be 20 odd grand, yeah.
Yeah, but with 145,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
But I have to say, and I've just said it on camera, apart from the small niggles and faults that I know about and the stone that I managed to get caught in one of the brake shields, it actually rides and drives really well. Have you played with the Geo and stuff, or no?
Nothing.
It feels really square.
Surprisingly, yeah, from replacing the bent wishbone.
Yeah. What are the main things that are wrong with this then? I mean, you talked about the obvious things, as far as I'm concerned, that I can see.
Yeah.
There's obviously some rot going on in various places.
Yeah.
It's looking a bit tatty. There's about 7 different Phoenix yellows.
To make this a nice car, even from just the top, it just wants too much paint. That you can just see that you can't probably see on the camera, but arches bubbling.
Yep.
And once they start doing that, it's pretty much game over.
You can just see it there. Yeah. Okay.
And then obviously this wheel arch is pretty manky.
Yep.
And by the time you can see this, it's like much worse.
Sure.
And then the rear panel is rusty as well.
Okay.
See the paint on the boots, really nice.
Yep.
I mean, even just look at the colour difference from here to here.
Yeah.
So lacquer peeling off everywhere. Seats are in surprisingly reasonable nick, although they probably could do with a good scrub.
And it did actually have an original gear stick.
It did,
there,
yeah.
Someone's already started breaking this car.
I stole it for the predecessor of my replacement for this.
Yep.
I bought another E46 M3 cab.
Because you're Russ, and that's what you do.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
But actually, that one, I've had to do so much work on it.
Right.
Like literally, if somebody had bought that car and brought it to me and said, "Give me a list of what's wrong,"
Yeah.
it would have completely made the car upside down in, value.
What it's worth. And
yeah.
Okay, so we've got bodywork, mirrors and mirror caps and things like that. All the seals I'd noticed as well. So basically, I mean, it's been outside for 22 years in the UK, so it's had summers and winters. You can see the perishing, especially under here. All of this is just rotten.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. The
headlight lenses look pretty
the headlight lenses are pretty special, aren't they? Yeah, look at those. And this does have xenons on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Oh, was it? It was standard, I think, with xenons, wasn't it? Yeah. One lens is a bit manky, the other one's not too bad. Maybe that's been replaced or cleaned up.
And this is like one of the first as well, being a Y plate.
Yes. Yeah, 2001. But I think it still looks fantastic. The shape. I mean, the 46 is one of the prettiest cars, and I have to say, I'm not normally a cab guy, but I think the 46 cab is one of the prettiest.
Might have just swayed you.
Yeah, you might have done.
Yeah.
You're going to show me inside.
So we've got a little bit of a Vanos fault, which is one of the perils of owning these cars.
And so Vanos is one issue that these do suffer from.
Yeah, head gaskets as well.
Yep.
We've got one next door. We've just done a head gasket on.
Okay.
Blown between the cylinders.
Yeah.
Best way to tell if it's done a head gasket is under a bit of load, generally up a hill or slight incline. Make it labour a little bit, and you can hear basically pinking, like shaking a jar with some coins in it, and that's like a pretty good indication that you've got a head gasket gone.
Okay.
Not the old, the old-fashioned way of a block test and this, that, and the other.
Yep.
On these, they blow between the cylinders and it pinks.
Okay.
So,
But ironically, with this particular car, this is actually the strong point of this car.
Maybe, because it has had one, yeah.
Yeah, but you said, what did you say to me? How did you describe this car earlier to me?
Well, like this is the engine in the car is just its like stand or something.
Yeah, it was an engine stand.
Yeah.
That's right, it's a gold engine, it's a Phoenix yellow engine stand.
Yeah.
Okay, so we looked under there. We know this is relatively good in this particular car, but as you said, head gaskets and Vanoses are...
Yeah, even still, this will want rod bearings checking, replacing.
Yep.
Because that's quite a common thing.
Okay, so should we stick it up in the air and have a quick look? Dare we have a look underneath? Is it going to be safe, or is it just going to fall on top of it?
Safer to look under it than drive it, I guess. You've done that already.
And I'm not a fan of these. These are 19s, aren't they, the optional ones? I prefer the non-option 18s on these.
To be honest, these wheels, I had a couple of years ago, I had a silver grey convertible E46 with cinnamon leather.
Yes.
And I had the wheels powder coated, diamond cut, and then polished. Okay. The face of it polished, and then ceramic coated, and those wheels looked stunning on that car.
Wow, okay.
The 18s would not have done that car justice.
Okay. Yeah. And the tiny brakes, I mean, see, this is the era where M brakes were crap, really, weren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at them today, and it's almost like, has someone just put 330 brakes in there? No, that is an M3 disc. Yeah. And they are so small.
Yeah, BMW arrived late to the big brake party.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't think the ramp's ever been this high.
Wow.
There you go, you can even walk under it.
I know, it's amazing. It's actually, from here, I'm surprised at how clean it all looks. Okay, as you get towards the back, it all looks a bit rotten.
If you look up around the hubs and stuff,
yeah,
it's all pretty scabby. Because one of my ideas was to use all the running gear on another car.
Right.
But even powder coating it, it's just too scabby.
Yeah.
It's just too bad.
You can see it's quite deep, the rust, so it just. Yeah, I mean.
Those bits doesn't matter.
They're just plates, but again, the strengthening brace.
And if you look here on the.
Yeah. So that's part of the actual chassis there, right?
Yeah, and this side's even worse.
Okay.
So it's actually like.
Oh wow, that's
pretty not very nice.
Now is this, as my knowledge of E46s isn't great, but what I do know is one of the main things that go is the rear subframe on them, right?
Well, this is what people say, but it's not the subframe.
Oh, okay.
It's actually the boot floor.
Oh,
this whole bit is a subframe.
Yeah.
So you basically remove that. And what people quite often say is that they've had it inspected, usually in a car for sale advert.
Yeah.
They say, oh, I've had it inspected and it's all good. But, you know, it's true you can see cracks without removing the subframe.
Yeah.
But quite often, if you can't find any cracks, there could well be the beginnings of them above the mount.
Yeah.
So it's usually here.
Yeah, or up here. Is that the boot floor there, essentially?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's just get some light. So this one's got quite a big crack. From there, you can just see the beginning of it.
Okay. Yeah.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
And that actually travels up the back of the panel, probably another 2.5 inches.
Wow.
So that is quite, bad.
Yeah.
And they also pop spot welds up here. So it's actually split the floor there, look.
Okay.
Where it joins the.
Oh yeah.
Where it joins the wing.
Yeah.
In a wheel arch. What I think the situation is, because obviously I had a 100,000 mile M3 at 3 years old.
Yeah.
And I think it's the deterioration in the bushes that start a bit of movement going on.
Okay.
And then obviously the floor is, it's not man enough really for the job.
Sure.
And when you cut it open and see how little there is in there structurally, it's not a surprise. And then the other difficulty would be dropping all that for somebody to do the boot floor and then look at how rusty everything else is.
Yeah, so then you'd have to replace everything.
I mean,
if you took that out, then you'd be mad not to take. What's this?
That's the rear subframe.
Rear subframe.
Yeah, and diff carrier or whatever.
Okay, diff carrier. Yeah. I mean, you'd have to replace. If you'd done all that, then you'd just have to replace all these, wouldn't you?
It would. Yeah. Some people would literally just want it dropped out, the cracks sorting out, and putting back in. But there's obviously different levels of how far you want to go. You know, some people just put the plates on.
Yep.
And then bolt it back up, which to me is madness because the bushes deteriorating basically contribute largely to the problem.
Yeah.
So for me, a minimum is subframe out, poly bushes, plates back in.
Yeah.
But you can also cut the floor open in the car and reinforce it inside the top as well.
Okay.
There's various products on the market, kits and stuff.
So basically, if you had a tidy, let's say coupe, because I think they are the most sought after, a nice manual coupe with not too crazy miles, but it's been in the UK for 20 years.
Yeah.
And if that rolled in with 30,000 miles and it looked a bit like this underneath, then that would be worth doing, wouldn't it? Because it's a car that's going to go up in value.
We did a CSL 2 years ago.
Yep.
With 55,000 on.
Yeah.
And the underside was obviously nowhere near as bad as this, but it wasn't, it wasn't mint by any standards.
Yeah.
And obviously that car had loads of, money in it to justify quite an extensive underbody, which it had, everything, all powder coated or replaced.
Yeah.
It was very nice afterwards. So yeah, but you would never even entertain it on this.
No.
Never, ever. But here's another issue that I suffer with. So the clamps on the exhaust, they break.
Yep.
And what it does, if you leave it for too long, is it splits the pipe.
Right.
So you can't actually
Clamp it back again.
clamp it back again. So quite, they can end up just welded up like that as a sort of,
Yeah.
which, it's obviously had it done at some point.
Yeah.
You've got 2 mounts that side and 1 mount this side, which probably isn't really man enough, I guess.
Okay.
So you've got the exhaust kind of hanging on this sort of weak point, if you like.
Yeah. So if someone has got a nice 46 or an
Yep.
average 46 and they bring it down to you, what should I have done to it? I suppose there's the obvious things like a regular oil changes on something like that.
Definitely regular oil changes.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a car at the minute. The other replacement for this, I don't think had proper maintenance for a long time.
Right.
Although it had some oil changes.
Yeah.
When I came to do the valve clearances, you couldn't slide the rockers along the shaft to get
Okay.
them to get access to the shim.
Wow.
So that's how sort of
Gunked up it gets.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was quite a challenge.
And I suppose alignment is another thing, getting the alignment.
To be honest, anyone buying one of these, I would have a good look around one first, or get
Yeah.
someone to have a look at it, and then, or get it in somewhere for an inspection,
Yeah.
and then I would literally give somebody a list of what I think.
Yeah. I suppose you can say to someone, right, this is what it needs.
Yeah,
This is what you can do.
yeah,
Or money no object. If you wanna go crazy, then this is what it's going to need over the next few years.
there's so many things these suffer from. I mean, even just my experience on my current one,
Yeah.
from rattly windows.
Yep.
Because the window regulators develop a play
Yeah.
in them. Quite often, you see online people saying, "Oh, the bolt's fallen out," which does happen.
Yeah.
But the little green sliders on the runners, they wear out, and
Okay.
the windows can literally have half an inch of
Of
and on a
movement.
coupe, it's not the end of the world because they shut up into a channel.
Yeah.
On a convertible,
Yeah.
you must have felt the scuttle shake in this.
Ah, yes. I talked
Which-
about it in a video.
It's really bad.
It is really bad.
Really
but,
bad.
But you know what is ironic as well is obviously the new G83, which is 2 tons.
Yeah.
That still suffers from scuttle
it
shake,
really?
which I couldn't believe
Yeah.
because we know how stiff that chassis is.
Yeah.
So I got into this expecting it to shake its head, and it did.
Yeah.
But actually on smooth road, it wasn't too bad. But as soon as you hit any undulations and bumps,
Yeah.
it's just that,
So on these, they suspended the battery in a wobbly cradle.
No.
Yeah, that was supposed to counteract a bit of the scuttle shake.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Just on the M3s or in on the cabs in general?
That's a good question. I think probably in the cabs in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's just such a German way of thinking, isn't it? Let's try and
We have a
minim-
problem. Let's create another problem
Yeah.
to fix the previous problem.
Yeah. Oh, actually, it's funny. Down here, you can see the rot on the doors.
Yeah.
You can see it clearly on the wheel arches there bubbling
Yeah.
up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's no denying it's had a good life. I'm sure it's got a lot of good tales to tell, including its last 6 months living with you.
Or, 6 months or more.
Yeah. And I think it's lovely to see something like this that was once what would that have been, 50 grand back in the
I
day?
don't know if they were that much.
Prob-
Definitely in the 40s.
Yeah, in
I'd say.
the 40s.
Cars weren't as ridiculously priced then as they are now.
That's true, yeah. That M2 I've got 77 grand, I think. 77.
So yeah, it's a shame to break it.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed having, 8 or 9 months of just having it on the drive, pottering around in it. But
Yeah.
that is really its only option, I think,
Yeah,
for the reasons we've seen.
yeah,
But they are, an enchanting car,
they are.
the E46 M3. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do like them.
Nice. Well, thanks, Russ.
That's all right.
As always. It's been great. I've really enjoyed my day with the E46, and this place is looking awesome. I'll just finish out here quickly. So yeah, if you're not familiar with Swift Performance, there'll be a link in the description below. There is their website. They have always got lots and lots of tasty stuff down here, old and new. They've even got a G87 around the corner. Not my one, another one that they're doing some work on already. Make sure you check them out on Instagram as well. But I'm sure you guys are familiar with them because my M2 is still here. Oh, I feel like a proper vlogger holding it here. Hopefully I'm in frame. Anyway, take it easy, guys. Thanks a lot for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it, something a little bit different. And I look forward to seeing you at another video very, very soon. Cheers.